Hello and welcome to another Scoutcast from FFScoutcast.co.uk. My name is Joe.
My name's David.
My name's Vaz.
My name's Andy.
Welcome everyone. We have got so much to discuss tonight. We had some breaking news today as well, so we managed to squeeze that into the schedule. So David, what have we got coming up on the show?
Yeah, got loads of stuff. So obviously, we're going to be looking back on game week 17, and as usual, looking through the roughs and the smooth. We're obviously going to look at our community questions as we always do, break it down into the key player, team, and talking point, and of course that will at the 11th hour include one Jose Mourinho and his sacking today from Manchester United. That's the big breaking news we were talking about. In case you've missed it, I'm sure you haven't. We're gonna get our teeth into that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about Eden Hazard. Obviously, he's been in incredible form, one of the few premium options to really deliver in game week 17. So we're going to have a look to find out if we need to be making sure we've got him over Christmas. We're going to look at Southampton. We've picked them out as our team. Obviously, very unexpected result against Arsenal at the weekend. So we need to dissect whether or not that's going to change our plans as well. And of course, Christmas is coming up very soon. So we're going to be talking about some top festive tips. Handling so many fixtures in such a short space of time. Is there a few things that we can do differently perhaps to the rest of the season? Talk about how that changes our strategy. And as always, we're going to have a look ahead to the game weeks coming up, talking about clean sheets, transfer and captaincy plans and our differentials as well. So yeah, lots to get into tonight.
Excellent. Okay, yes, no, that is a busy schedule. So let's crack on with a look back at our previous game weeks. As you're top of the pile with 65, you made no transfers as well. So putting your team up on the screen. What went right? Sounds like lots.
Finally, I'm back to top of the pile, not bottom like I am every week this season. Well, December's been quite a good month for me, actually. I think you got up some stats of the Mods and Cons League, and I think me, David, and you, Joe, are 3 out of the top 4 places in the Mods and Cons League.
That's right. Yeah,
something's going right. I mean, you can look at my team. Obviously, two kind of standout players there. Hazard, who I was very close to getting rid of, a few weeks ago as part of a kind of elaborate shake-up, but had other fires to kind of put out. We're going to be talking about him later, and he looks like the kind of man to have out of all the big hitters. So really happy to have him in, and lots of people are sort of clamouring to get him in, but he's got this kind of little injury, so it might put a few people off. And Fabianski, and we were talking about him on the Breakfast Club. I still think absolute standout goalkeeper in the game to have, keeps delivering points. Had a look at the fixture list, and he just doesn't seem to have a bad run of fixtures until the end of the season. So he is going to be in my team from now until the end of the season, I imagine. And having a goalkeeper like that for 4.5, I think is great. I think the one issue with my team, and I saved the transfer, so gives me a chance to deal with it. But Lacazette just is a problem because you just never know whether he's going to start or not. And if he leads the line tomorrow against Spurs, then I think I'm going to have to make a decision with him. But at least I've got two transfers to shake things up a bit.
Well, yeah, no, it is good to see you top of the pile there as well. And as you did mention there, the Moderators and Contributors League. So I had a look at December, and I was really surprised to see us all up there, except for Andy. Now, this was also surprised me as well. And one of the reasons I did this was not just to go, look, Andy's done badly, but it was more the fact of just looking at groups of fixtures. So I kind of looked at the pre-festive fixtures as one block, really. And David's done the best out of all the moderators and contributors there. And then Graham Sumner's done the second, and then me, and then Az, and then Mark as well is at 5th. So if we're doing a bit better than Mark, then we must be doing something right. And Andy's down there again. But this just goes to show, really, I think if we were to look at this December list at the end of the month, I suspect we'll probably start seeing Andy at the top and perhaps us falling down a bit, because the next block of fixtures is important to look at. And I think that's a real theme throughout this, really. We've got to look at game weeks 18 to 21 as a whole, really, and don't worry if we get the odd bad game week, because it's a collective effort there. So moving on to David's team. David, you came second out of us, 55 I believe you got. What went right?
55 points. I think, I don't want to sound greedy, but I was kind of hoping for a little bit more, mainly because I captained Harry Kane. And I think we were all expecting more out of Harry Kane. And I was actually not that confident about the rest of my team, because as I said on the last one, that we did, I was kind of worried about the fact that I had a lot of people playing against each other. Because I had Mitrovic and Fabianski, I had Fraser, Doherty, and Patricio was in the squad. And a week ago, I wasn't sure which goalie I was going to start, etc. So I really was just expecting it to just be kind of Kane and I'll take what I can get elsewhere. And in the end, it was kind of the other way around because, I got the clean sheet out of Wolves, which I wasn't expecting. I got a clean sheet out of West Ham, which I wasn't expecting. The goal from Jimenez was nice, but I'd actually vice-captained him. So, I was never going to captain him over Kane, but it's always a bit annoying when your vice comes in and your captain kind of, doesn't really deliver the goods. I mean, it was an exciting game week, I guess, objectively speaking, because I thought my captain run had finally come to an end. I thought, coming to the end of that Spurs game, I was like, I can't believe that Kane is the one who's ended my run of no blanks for captains. And then, of course, he got the assist right at the end. And, all of a sudden, everyone on Twitter just blew up and just congratulating me on the fact that Harry Kane had left it late. So, it was an entertaining one. It could have gone better, but it didn't go, awful. So I can't complain too much. I banked the transfer as well. I think the one thing I was worried about was West Ham. And I think I got a little bit lucky because I think we were all really expecting West Ham to kind of score a lot more points against, I thought all the, Snodgrass, Anderson, Chicharito were the three I was looking at. I thought they would all come out of a game with Fulham with a lot more points than they did. So saving that, Richarlison would have been the fall guy. But yeah, I think I want to keep Richarlison, and I think I'd love to have some West Ham players, but it's just to that particular game, I want to save the transfer, and I think I've got off lightly because they didn't do the bits I was expecting. So yeah, 2 free transfers for the next couple of game weeks. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, so
can't complain with that.
Green arrow as well, I presume. So
yes, 6K now, something like that.
Heading very much in the right direction. I got 52. The only move I made was to get rid of Sigurdsson for Anderson, and it was part of the kind of strategy really of just pinpointing weaknesses in the team. Sigurdsson had 2 bad fixtures. I would have benched him anyway probably, or possibly played him, but I just wouldn't have expected much. And yeah, you talked about that West Ham defence. I wanted some West Ham attack, and I wanted some of that really. And I was fairly happy. Sane really was the one who was great. Obviously with hindsight we should have captained him, but I still would have captained Kane for that fixture. And I've got some returns there, and a few other returns. The Wolves players as well. Wolves players really showing, that they're such great kind of set and forget type players. Just get them in, and they're getting returns in the easy matches. They can get returns in the hard matches as well. And they're so cheap as well. I mean, Doherty as well. I think I got him. Many people got him for 4.4, 4.5.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
that's incredible value there, and Jimenez as well. So I mean, I know I think it was Andy was the Jimenez cheerleader. Originally, and I was really really wanted to get some of that action. And,
I've still not got him. Yeah. He's just killing me every week.
He is insane. He's so I had him since game week 5. He's averaging more than 5 points per game. Since then, in 12 game weeks, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
It is amazing. So let's move on to your team, Andy. So what did you get, and what went wrong this time?
Yeah, apart from Jimenez, most stuff went wrong this week. I got 44. I took a 4-point hit, which was to get Felipe Anderson in for Dean Garner. I'd basically, the week before, left myself in a position where I was going to have to play Dean Garner and Kamara. I knew I'd left myself in that position. Originally, I was thinking about getting rid of Salah because I wasn't expecting too much from the Man United game. Kept him for these next 2 games, which meant I didn't go for Sané or Hazard. And I think when I look at kind of my scores versus you guys, I think there's 2 players that stand out. I've got Sterling instead of Sané, and Sterling missed a game, blanked, and then didn't start. And to be fair, he got something this week, which is kind of nice because he was my captain. I was not feeling the love when he came on 60 minutes, but scored straight away, which was nice enough. But him, and I think not exactly the most essential player, but you speak about Fabianski. I've had Ryan, and he has been awful. And Fabianski is racking up 8s and 9s all over the shop, whereas I'm only getting 1 or 2 from Ryan. And it's just a goalkeeper, but that's over 3-4 weeks. That's 20 odd points that I'm missing out on. So they're 2 players I've missed. But otherwise, for this week, Son got benched, Sterling got benched. I brought in Schindler, no clean sheet, which meant I benched Wan-Bissaka. Ryan is awful. Richarlison, Salah all blanked. So Aubameyang too. Aubameyang was one of those annoying things where most people on Saturday hadn't done much, so you were hoping for something from him against Southampton. And I think for anyone that watched the game, on another day he would score. There was some heroics in that defence, and the goalkeeper McCarthy was on pretty good form as well. So yeah, pretty poor week, pretty poor December so far. I didn't realise it was quite so bad until you decided to rub it in the notes. So it's not going too far.
Well, I put it in there to be optimistic as well, because the thing is, it's changing. We've got another block of fixtures, as I said. You're going to be flying up, presumably as well, because you've already identified some of the weaknesses there. And also, it's an unlucky week because you've got loads of really good players there. Just some of them didn't actually make it to the pitch. So, and that probably indicates they will next time around, and I think that was the thing.
Therapy session.
It is a therapy session, because I posted something on Twitter just outlining it. Basically, Hazard and Sane were the only two really of those popular premium picks that delivered. You got some all right scores from Sterling and Kane, and then you got others like Aubameyang that didn't deliver at all. But next week, same bunch of players, they're going to be in different positions there, because that's just the way it is, and we can't have them all. But so as we have some rough with the smooths, I believe, some people who've had worse weeks than Andy and far better weeks than yourself.
We do, yes. So apologies if my sound isn't great. Apparently it's still not good, but I've tried to tweak it, so can't do much else. Yeah.
Shout really loud.
Yeah. So on the roughs, you got Cop Cloppers, and this is a bit of a benching nightmare. So he got in Son as his transfer, who was benched and came on. But on his bench, he had Fabianski, 9 points. He had Wan-Bissaka, 6 points. He had Digne, 4 points. And of course, he had Ings.
Oh, no.
12 points. So 31 points on his bench. Pretty savage. Blue and White, 85. He looks set to be getting Ings 13 points off his bench. And then Martial came on for 10 minutes. So that's not so nice. And I think probably the worst one is one I saw on Twitter. FPL Crate Digger. He just this is bad. So he sold Shaqiri and Ings.
Oh, what?
For Son and Kamara.
That's what's that? 27 or so points down.
Yeah, 30 points in the move. And I don't know, it's relatively sensible. You wouldn't, Ings has been out for ages, and Shaqiri's back on the bench, and Kamara and Son looked quite good. So you can see why I did it. But
Southampton against Arsenal as well.
Yeah, pretty nasty one. So on to the smooths. My friend Lego Mane. So he wildcarded last week, and he got a game week rank of 5.2 million. Wow. And he dropped down to 420,000. Kept faith with the same team, and this week got a game week rank of 100,000, and he's pretty much climbed back up to where he was before that wildcard. So yeah, just a tale of 2 weeks really. Just shows how quickly things can sort of come back. Sambi, he's my other smooth. He did a nice hit. Wilson and Fraser, and brought in Chicharito and Sané. So just instant returns on those moves. Classy
moves. Thanks for that. Good ones there. Usually we move on to discuss a player or players, but we've elevated our team discussion because the team emerged this morning to be Manchester United. Basically, after being humbled really by Liverpool, the Manchester United board clearly had enough, parted company with Jose, whose difficult third season curse continues. Andy, I believe we have some questions from the community about Manchester United.
Yeah, this obviously kind of blew up a bit earlier. Everyone getting very excited, especially Man United fans. So we got just Sam. Actually, just Sam. There's no just. It's literally Sam. Are Man United players great FPL options again? If so, who? So looking at the whole squad there. Could Sanchez be reborn as a fantasy asset? Probably, a bit soon on that one because he's still out injured, but potentially in the new year for him. Max Harwood, is Pogba now a great midfield option? Down to 7.8 million, which I think a lot of people are surprised about. Pretty cheap price for him. And lots saying, not necessarily looking at them in the future. Should we even jump on right now? I don't have the fixtures in front of me, but they're pretty ridiculous. I think it's Cardiff, Huddersfield, Bournemouth, Newcastle.
That's bang on.
Yeah. So pretty decent fixtures straight out of the bat. And, a lot of the times we talk about new manager bounce. Could that happen here? Potentially in the mix, we're hearing Laurent Blanc or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And obviously, Solskjaer's a bit of a legend at Man United. So, at least have the crowd and fans back on board. So lots of questions. Basically, simple Man United assets, yes or no, and how quickly. We'll start with David.
Yeah, I think I might surprise a few people when I say I don't want to think about him yet, because I just think it's a bit too soon, for me anyway. When it comes to new managers, I mean, I think the key there is the fact that we actually don't know. We've got no idea, and the suggestions, of course, it could be Solskjaer, it could be Blanc. I mean, the idea is that he's going to be a temporary manager who has the team until the end of the season, and then they look for someone more permanent. And I just wonder who's going to be prepared to do that. So, like Laurent Blanc, for example, obviously has quite a lot of experience in Europe, and I just feel that he, for example, will be a bit of an odd one to say yes to something temporary. Solskjaer probably would, because obviously the clubs that he's managed at aren't quite the same sort of level, and he feels like the kind of person who could be a bit more temporary. But I really I just because there's so much uncertainty, I kind of just don't really want to go near them. I guess the team kind of picks itself, I suppose, because there's a lot of players who've been out of the team because they've maybe had a riff with Mourinho and they probably go straight back in. So I think, I mean, in answer to the Pogba question, I think he's going to start, because I think whoever this manager is going to be, you can't really get away with not starting him. But I don't know, there's just too much uncertainty for me. I mean, we've seen that new manager bounce don't always work, because, I mean, Fulham, obviously they won their first game under Ranieri, but then they've been naff, really, ever since. So, yeah, for me, just too much uncertainty to really kind of go into too much. I think these fixtures are good because they're against teams they should beat. So if they can do that, maybe they give me something to look at. But, yeah. Some of you guys might disagree. Some of you guys I know have been talking on Twitter. There's some individuals that you're already looking at, but for me, I can't bring myself to think about any of them yet.
Not happy to hear that.
Sorry, I was going to say maybe you should go to someone else first, because I'm going to just poo-poo the whole thing.
No, that's all good. Joe, what about you? I think we might have lost Az. So
yeah, no, he's still
Oh,
there.
man.
No, he's still there.
so-
He's just really quiet and patient.
I'm listening intently.
And patience is the way I'm going to be.
getting ready to put the kibosh on everything, mate.
But no, I am being patient as well. But that's not because Mourinho's gone. It's because I think all the problems are still there. So
Yeah, I agree. That's the other thing.
I have my eye on Pogba. Because he's on penalties and various other set pieces. I have my eye on Rashford because he's quite good value for what he offers, and I have my eye on Martial for similar reasons, really. And I possibly would have my eye on Lukaku, possibly. But I'm not going to rush in, and I think the problems with the United, as I said, are just more deeper than Mourinho. So you look at the defence, it's just simply poor. You know, when a team says, hang on a minute, the best we've got is Jones and Smalling, and we're just going to offer them long-term contracts, you know they're in trouble, really. And the midfield is such a mishmash. It's just completely unbalanced. It's like a collection. It's like a collection of those kids that are last to be picked at football in the playground at school. And I know because I was one of those kids. And basically, so it's a midfield of me, and that's not a pretty sight.
I think that's your best one yet, Joe. That's your best.
You got Herrera, the red card machine. You got McTominay. What the hell is McTominay doing in the first team of Manchester United?
Right, work experience, isn't it?
No, he's on work experience. They've got the work experience guy. And Fellaini, like just some crazy Bond villain guy. It just makes no sense to me. And it's not a finely balanced midfield machine. Having said that, Pogba is on penalties. So once again, the same fancy rules apply. Attack, they're interesting, but a little too interesting. So you've got Rashford, Lukaku, Sanchez back in January, Martial. It's once again same. It doesn't matter whether Jose Mourinho's there, Ferguson, whoever. They've got too many options for an FPL manager to decide who's going to start. We don't know, and we don't know that whether Mourinho's there, whoever's there, and that's the problem there. So, for those that are a little more keen than me, and you look at underlying stats, Rashford would be the one to consider. I think they are great fixtures. We just mentioned, Andy's just mentioned them. The goal attempts, Rashford over the last 4, he's top for goal attempts with 10. And he's got 9 chances as well, so there's a spread of points there. My only concern there is only 3 of those shots were in the box. So Rashford is shooting for fun, but too much outside the box. I want to see Rashford inside the box shooting more. Once I start seeing that, then I'm going to be more keen. But as we're going to talk about later in the show, he's got to compete with a lot of other budget strikers, and we mentioned Jimenez and Danny Ings we're going to discuss as well. So can he compete? I don't know. So there's my thoughts there. Bit of playground banter.
I completely agree with you. Like, there's just so many. A lot of people think, how can't he get this team to work well? But you're right. There's so much guff in there. There's such a load of guff there, and yeah, whoever the next manager is, I actually think they will fail because There's too much going on behind the scenes. A lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, Mourinho spent this money. Mourinho spent this money." No, he hasn't. Like, he hasn't chosen these players. These aren't players that Mourinho has specifically handpicked and said, "I want that guy." And until the club gets to a stage where the manager is actually able to do that, they're not going to get back to where they were before. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
All right. Well, before Az says the same thing, I'm gonna try and provide a different. So first of all, like, I think, yes, okay, you probably don't want to rush in the first game week because you don't know what the team is. But if the manager's in before the next game week, you'd imagine that the first team they pick will be quite similar to the next team and the next team after that. I don't think they're going to see so many changes. They're not going to have the same, relationship with the players that Mourinho had, where some of them like Pogba being benched. Pogba's not going to be benched. He's going to be straight back into the team. Solskjaer even said at the start of the season, I think it was, that if he was in charge, he would build a team around Pogba. So that's how much he thinks of him. We'll have to see if he becomes the manager. And obviously, yeah, we're talking about McTominay and Fellaini. I mean, the hope, all Man United fans' hope is they won't be anywhere near the team. And obviously, we've not seen what Fred can really do. He's not had a good start to Man United life. But I think, the likes of him, Herrera, get Matic out of the team, that becomes more mobile, a bit more attacking. I think there's potential there. And given their price, probably worth a punt. And you don't get much better fixtures to turn it around, like, straight away. If anyone else had those fixtures, we'd be clamouring to get on. So I don't think there's a rush to triple up necessarily. Maybe a double. But I think, like, Martial's been good under Mourinho. Why wouldn't he be good under a new manager? He's like 7.3, is he now, I think? It's pretty cheap if you need a different differential midfielder, maybe. I think there's potential there. You can say I'm a bit biased, whatever, but I just think a new manager come in with some fresh ideas. And Fellaini, McTominay, definitely nowhere near the team. And I know he's not had the greatest season so far, but De Gea has not just become an awful keeper overnight. And yes, Jones and Smalling, laughable, but there's nothing to say that Bailly and Lindelof won't start getting a run of games. And maybe with a manager that actually doesn't talk down about him every kind of other game, like Bailly, his confidence must be shot under Mourinho. Maybe we can just put in some steady defensive performances. And again, the fixtures are there. Lindelof's 4.8 million. Dalot maybe gets the right back spot 5.3. So I think there's potential there, but I would agree you're probably not going to bet on them against Cardiff. But once I've seen that team, I think it could be quite interesting, especially if Rashford holds the number 9 spot.
Yeah, Rashford's definitely the one I'm looking at. Because one of the reasons they obviously got rid of Mourinho, there's all sorts of reasons there. But one of them is this kind of romantic feeling. You get this from West Ham players, fans as well. They think it's still 1966 again. And Manchester United's a bit like that. They're kind of head in the clouds and, where's this attacking football? And they start going all misty-eyed about it. So clearly that's what they want. They're not going to get that from Jose Mourinho. So why they employed him, I have no idea. But you look at a player like Rashford, he is exactly that. He's young, he's exciting to watch, scores great goals. He scored really important goals as well, so he's not fazed by the occasion. Real fans' favourite. Yeah, Rashford's definitely the one. Presumably, whoever comes in is going to keep picking Rashford, I would hope. I'm keeping my eye on him.
What about you, Az?
You all know my views now, do you?
Yeah. Kind of come to you by default, I think.
Well, you know my views on United under Mourinho. I think, but I think he has been a major source of problems for United, and I think there is going to be a cloud that's lifted for the players. But I also thought that under David Moyes as well, and then Giggs took over. Everyone was like, "What a fantastic appointment! He's going to do really well for us until the end of the season," and then he didn't. I can't remember any of their players suddenly becoming options when they got Giggs in as caretaker manager last time around. So I can't really see why it'd be that different this time. The one thing is, though, that I think a lot of people are going to be getting United players in. There's a lot of United fans out there. We see it a lot with price rises, when, at the start of the season, everyone starts with Lukaku or De Gea because they're all big United fans. And now United are kind of in the news again and there's all this kind of drama. I think people are going to start flocking towards some of these players. And if United can turn it around, it could have a bit of an impact on ranks, kind of no matter where you are. If they start doing well. So I think it's important to consider some of them. But to me, there's only one player who you can consider, and you mentioned him, Andy. It's Martial. He's been performing, and not despite not having any chemistry with any players, if a new manager can come in and at least get some chemistry between him and Pogba and Herrera and whoever is playing striker, then I can only see Martial's points sort of increasing. So he's one I've got my eye on. If he does well over the next 2 games, then he is someone that I could consider bringing in, because I had him. I've had him for 1 week and he scored in that 1 week. So I've got a good relationship with him at the moment. So yeah, I think unlike Mourinho, who's gone. So I think Martial for me is the one player who I'm looking at.
I think it's important to remember, it's not like under Mourinho, Man United players have never been an option. There was a great run over Christmas last year with Lingard. De Gea was so well loved last year that people started with him this year. Obviously, that didn't go so well. Pogba's been an option on and off, and Martial recently. So it's not. I mean, I guess the optimism is for Man United fans is how can it get any worse than it's been, and yet we've still had Man United players at times this season. So. Yeah, fingers crossed. Probably move on to.
So just one thing. You look at Bailly and Lindelof; they're both around the 5 million mark. I know you posted earlier saying you want those to be first choice. I can't see why they. I mean, Lindelof maybe, but Bailly. I mean, surely he's got to be first choice. He seems like the best defender of a bad bunch. And at 5 million, if they can sort things out, then he could become an option.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean. I think the one thing to do is have an open mind. Like a lot of people are anti Man United because of Mourinho, but he's not there now, so you can't treat them as the same team. Of course, if in 2, 3, 4 game weeks after we've played these good games and still not looking any better at all, then yeah, maybe they're not good enough for the season. But to write them off just because of what's happened so far this season, I think would be a bit closed-minded and. You've always got to consider everyone, no matter who they are. So I think there's some potential options there for sure.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, some of the players that Manchester United's assets have got to compete with, we're going to be talking about now. And it's a couple of players. One very expensive, one not so expensive. So, Az, you're going to be taking the discussion for the expensive one. Who is it, and what are the community saying?
The expensive one is a certain Eden Hazard, who a lot of people, myself included, were writing off only a few weeks ago. And this is what Hazard does when you kind of give up on him. He starts bringing in the points again, and suddenly you want him. As soon as you bring him back in again, he'll start to go off the boil again. But he got a goal and assist and 3 bonus against Brighton. It shows how potent he can be as a captaincy option. And at the moment, he looks to have the form and the best fixtures of all the kind of premium assets going forward. He's got Leicester at home, and then Watford away, and Crystal Palace away, and then Southampton at home. It doesn't really get much better than that. So GAU says, is Hazard close to essential? That word again for the festive fixtures. And KTK Iniesta says, was this game week more proof that Hazard is a set and forget option? He now plays as a false 9, which adds to his appeal. Sarri had great success at Napoli with Mertens in his role, and that made him a great goal scorer. So he's obviously expecting the same for Hazard. So let's go to you first, David. What do you think of Hazard?
Yeah. Well, I'm exactly like you in the sense that he just feels like that player that just always trolls me. And I think it's just testament to that aspect of him that, like you say, we were talking him down. And one of the things we'd all been saying was, yeah, he's created all these chances. That's all very well and good, but the people around him can't finish. But he's got like 5 assists in his last 4 games. So clearly someone there can. And yeah, he's playing false 9. So I think, yeah, absolutely that adds to his appeal as well. And I think what I really like about him is that he seems quite durable. So we talked earlier about the injury that he's got. And I mean, we should definitely just say that doesn't sound massively serious at all. It was enough for him to come off because obviously they were winning the game, but obviously they kind of want to protect him. Basically Sarri said that the doctor said 1 or 2 days maximum, to the point that he's in the frame to start this League Cup game. I mean, I don't think he will, but he seems to have recovered from that fine, so shouldn't be put off by that at all. And Chelsea's fixtures over Christmas just look so good. So I mean, home against Leicester just feels like a routine win for them. Away at Watford, who defensively are awful. Crystal Palace, it's another game that I can just see Chelsea doing very well in. And he just kind of seems like the main man. There's not really anyone else you can rely on if you want to get in on those fixtures. He seems like the only one, because Alonso's kind of gone off. I mean, the reason that I was comfortable getting rid of Hazard was because I felt, well, I've got Alonso to kind of maybe cover me a bit if they start doing well attacking wise, but it hasn't been enough, because Alonso, I think, offensively has gone off the boil, and really I'm just paying 7 million for a guy who's going to get some clean sheets. And yeah, when you compare Hazard to some of the other premium options, so I mean, if I'm going to get him, it would be at the expense of Salah. Yes, he got the hat-trick against Bournemouth, but the games that Liverpool have over Christmas, they're not quite the same type of game. So I mean, you've got Wolves away next, and I think Wolves will probably concede, but they're not going to get smashed. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game because that's what Wolves play. That's their playing style. That's what they facilitate of a game. They're very good at keeping it tight. Even Newcastle at home, I'm starting to come around to what Adam said last week, that actually, to be honest, that's probably going to be a game where Benitez just rocks up and sticks everyone behind the ball, and Liverpool will have to try and break them down. And if they don't do that early on, which is possible because I think they may even be rotating quite a lot for that Boxing Day game, with Arsenal coming up a few days later, I think that could be like a 1-0, and it's like Sturridge who scores, for example. So, if people who've still got Salah, Hazard actually looks like a really easy switch. And annoyingly, I feel like I know I should make that move, but it's hard to do because, of course, Hazard does have that thing about him that he could end up just, reverting to doing nothing when I've signed him. So yeah, I think I should sign him, but I'm scared to do it. Shall I say?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like this, the use of the word essential just seems crazy at the moment because I don't think anyone's essential. You've got 6 premium players who, you can have probably 3 of them max out of Kane, Sterling, Sané, Salah, Hazard, and Aubameyang. And the other 3 that you don't own, you're always worried that they're going to score any week. So I don't own Aubameyang. Watching that Southampton game was awful. He had loads of chances, could easily have got double digits. I haven't got Salah, and he scored a hat-trick last week, which everyone seems to have forgotten about pretty quickly. I haven't got Sané, and he, he's doing, what he does, and he's had that rest now. So there's pros and cons of all 6 players every week. So saying that one of those 6 is essential seems a bit ridiculous. I think Hazard is the best option out of those 6 because he's got the form, because he's got the fixtures. But if I didn't have him and I had, some of the other players around that, I don't think I'd be too worried going into this break. I mean, it's a funny game because I was all set to sell Hazard and Alonso looked completely untouchable in my own team. And it was only when he put in a couple of bad performances that I got rid of Alonso. And I kind of had the complete opposite of you, David, because once I sold Alonso, I realised, Hazard's now my only Chelsea player, and I want a player in for these fixtures. And that's the only reason why I kept him. So yeah, it's funny how your kind of plans kind of just kind of change and things like that. But yeah, I think the false 9, I've always been a bit worried about players playing in that role. Sterling's done it a few times for City and not really performed too well. I think Hazard's done it before and not been amazing.
Done it for Belgium as well.
Yeah. And he hasn't gone crazy doing it. But it looks like Sarri's kind of getting more out of him in this role. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. I'm really surprised though that Giroud isn't playing more. He got a few goals in the Europa League a few weeks ago, and I do, he is going to come back into the team at some point, and there is going to be rotation as well. So constantly chopping and changing your premium players just to fit in the player who scored heavily last week, I just think is such a bad strategy. I think you just get in, 3 of those players and you stick with them through this. And if they get benched, if they get rotated, then, so be it, because they could all score. They could all score well. Andy, what do you think about Hazard?
Yeah, basically the last thing you said there kind of resonated with me, and I'm sure a lot of people. I genuinely considered Salah out for him last week so I could get Sané and didn't do it. So now I'm in that stubborn position like a lot of people. Like, well, do I now make the move this week, or is that chasing points? Salah now has 2 I think good fixtures, or at least fixtures you wouldn't necessarily want to sell him before. Can it still be done? Like, I agree with you. Is he essential? No, I don't think so. There's other. Arguably, I think. If it wasn't for that Liverpool game, I think Sané could quite easily match or beat him, given how he's playing, and looks like he's going to play most game weeks as well. I do want Hazard in. I just think that run of fixtures, yes, he's got those niggles, those little injuries where he gets knocks during games, but he always seems to come back from them, most of the time at least. And yeah, just the fixtures, penalties, like he kind of has it all. The false 9 thing, I mean, the sample size is very small. We've also seen him not do very well in that position. And I still have slight doubts over his want to score goals versus create them. I don't know. He just always seems. I owned him before in the season. He's so frustrating to watch sometimes. He gets near the box and you think, you just shoot. You're good enough. You know, you can be up to that kind of, I want to say Ronaldo, Messi level. People always compare him to, but he can be that level above where he is now for goals, and he just passes it. And it's super frustrating from an FPL point of view. Obviously, from a Chelsea point of view, if it creates a goal, then who cares? But yeah, I just think I need to get him in for that 11 million. Can he match Salah over the next 4? I think so, because Salah's got 2 top 6 games, and I'm not like against Man United. I won't expect points in those games from him. Can he get them? Yeah, of course. We saw Mane and Shaqiri get some against Man United, but I'm probably going to make the switch this week, Salah to Hazard. I just think he looks that good at the moment. The fixtures are good. There's not too much to dislike. Essential, no, but do I want him? Absolutely. And just one more point I'll make, just in case Giroud doesn't come back. If he keeps playing this false 9, I'll tell you what makes a really good option, potentially, is Pedro. He gets points basically when he plays, and he's playing while Hazard's playing that false 9 position. So he's another one to consider if you wanted a cheaper option into those fixtures. But obviously you have got the worry that Giroud comes back, or Morata or whoever it might be, and he goes back out of the team. But yeah, Hazard for me, I can't really argue against him too much. I can't think of many reasons not to get him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean his best ever goal return was 16 goals in the Premier League, which isn't bad, but it's
enough, yeah. Especially with all the assists he'll get.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, he does look set to beat that this season. I think, although he is frustrating, I think one of the major things I like about him is the bonus. And it's, you know, because he doesn't shoot so much, because he kind of is more clinical and he creates chances and passes it around, any attacking returns he gets, he's pretty much guaranteed to get some bonus with it as well. So a goal is almost like worth 8 points rather than 5,
Yeah.
which is what I like.
Sorry. Just the only other thing that, again, because of the way my team's set up, if you have Kane, which I don't, and you ship Salah, then game week 19 captaincy gets a little bit trickier, because obviously Salah's got Newcastle, Kane's got Bournemouth, and then outside of that, City have got Leicester. And I mean, you could just argue it's another game for City. They'll score 3 or 4 goals anyway. And Chelsea, yes, Watford's a pretty good fixture, but again, it is away. So it does make, if you get rid of Salah and you don't have Kane, if you've got a team set up similar to mine, it does make captaincy a little bit trickier. So one thing to consider.
Yeah, definitely. Joe, what do you reckon about Hazard?
Yeah, obviously Hazard. Yeah, echo those thoughts there. Not essential, but very desirable. Definitely a player I want. But in order to get him, I would have to get rid of Salah or do some other move where Kane came out and I upgraded Højbjerg to him. So I got a very cheap striker in. You know, all possible. Yeah, looking at the last 4 fixtures, Hazard is the best really out of all the premium assets that we've been talking about. 5 assists and a goal. So 6 attacking actions there. That's the best. In terms of fixtures, obviously they're great. But Tottenham's are great as well. And so Manchester United. So, you know, he's competing with some others there. I think immediately I'm okay. I like Salah away to Wolves. I think that's a good fixture for him. I think it's on a par really with the match against Leicester. I think Leicester's a good match, but it's kind of slightly middling. They're not, both Wolves and Leicester aren't, you know, horrendous defences. You know, they're going to concede, but perhaps not loads. And I think for me, game week 20 looks the ideal move to move Salah on. So Liverpool, I spoke a bit about this last week as well. So Liverpool have got Wolves, and then they've got Newcastle game week 19. And then they've got Arsenal and Man City, and Salah's definitely ditchable for that Arsenal Man City game. And Chelsea then have Crystal Palace and Southampton. Now, these are 2 great fixtures there, so I think that's what I'm looking at, kind of being a bit not even patient, kind of, because I am worried about not having Hazard, but I'm also worried about not having Sterling. And at the moment in game week 18, with Sterling being rested midweek for most of the match, even though he came on, I think it was the 66th minute or so. You know, they're at home to Crystal Palace, and I think that's a much better fixture. And I think Sterling's a better option this game week. So I possibly wouldn't, if I had the luxury of making that midfield move, I think I'd probably go for Sterling to go alongside Sané. I give myself a really nice choice to make. Which of those, Sterling or Sané, do I captain? So that would be good, a nice decision to have to make.
Because you haven't got Aubameyang either, have you?
I haven't got Aubameyang, and I kind of worry a bit about that. I think I mentioned before, he's been a bit of a Sky fantasy hero for me in recent weeks, so I'm fine with that. I can live without Aubameyang. I've got Kane. I just think I think Kane's a more consistent scorer than Aubameyang, and I still don't quite know what I'm going to get from Emery. I know that Kane is going to get the odd rest. I don't think he's going to play. He's not going to get 4 starts over Christmas. I'm resigned to that. It's a question of knowing when that's going to be, that rest is going to be, and perhaps we'll never know until it's too late. But I think for me, Kane is a better option than Aubameyang, and I think we've seen that in recent weeks. Emery's still not quite sure what his best side is. Still at this stage, I don't think.
Yes, but Aubameyang has played every time. Like, I just recently, and like underlying stats wise, Aubameyang looks better. He looked better at the weekend for attacking points. Fixtures wise, I mean, Everton away is not the greatest fixture. Aubameyang has Burnley at home, so I'm not. I don't know. I'm not quite sure that Kane is obviously the better option.
Everton's last home game, they shipped 15 shots as well. And what people say about Kane this season is exactly what they were saying last season. Exactly before he went to Goodison Park and got a brace. So that's why I think with Kane, I think he is capable of those returns. And also, in his last 6 starts, he's actually got an attacking return. So that's what I mean about him being consistent. He might not be explosive at the moment, although he has got one with double-digit haul over that time. But he has got returns. With Aubameyang, we don't know. We just don't know whether he's going to get returns or not. We don't know whether he's going to be alongside Lacazette. It's these kinds of things.
Yeah, the stuff around him, that I think that's the key, isn't it? Is that,
it's not
he is
Aubameyang.
playing.
Yeah.
I'll definitely agree with what you said earlier on about the fact that Aubameyang was definitely unlucky not to come out of game week 17 with something. And actually, underlying statistics-wise for that game week, he was better than Kane, because Kane had like 1 shot, Aubameyang had 3. But actually, largely over the period leading into that game week, and I think even if you group it over the last 4 or 5, Kane still is having more shots on target. And I do just think that Kane game was a blip. I mean, we said, what was it? It was 3 weeks ago that we all kind of needed to get rid of Aguero, and it was a choice between the two. And Kane is winning that battle, 18 points to 9 currently. Yeah. So I mean, I know that that's obviously in the past, but I agree with Joe. I think Kane's a better option. I feel he's more reliable for me. I know we've tangented a little bit, but I think it's definitely worth talking about.
Yeah, no, it's all linked in with getting Hazard or not, because we can't have them all. Now, one thing that may influence my decision, and we'll come to this later with festive fixture rotation, is it's not even whether I think they're going to score or they've got a good fixture. It's whether they're actually going to play. And if Kane plays the midweek game, so this is being recorded and streamed before Arsenal's midweek cup game. Now, to Spurs cup game with Arsenal, if he plays all of that, then once again I start to think, will he actually be rested for the Everton trip? And I start to have those doubts there as well, and that might make me move him on. But it's nothing Kane's really doing wrong. He's getting those returns. Yeah. He's just not getting the super duper returns that you would expect from a 12 million player. But nor is Aubameyang doing that, getting super duper returns either.
I do think that I'm surprised because you guys are all underlying stats guys. Yes, he's had 1 less shot on target, but Aubameyang's got over 5 expected goals last 6. Well, Kane's got 2.5.
I'm with you, Andy. I'm completely with you. I'd rather have Aubameyang going into this next match, and possibly even for the foreseeable future. But it just seems.
I tell you what though, and this from being an Aubameyang owner versus not being a Kane owner or vice versa. Like, not owning Kane is super scary, and he was the only one over the weekend that I constantly refreshed Twitter for to see if he'd scored. I didn't do it for Hazard, and he got 13 points. I didn't really do it for Sané. Kane, I think it's fear, a lot of it. I don't think you have the same fear of Aubameyang because you've not do it in the past.
I do, especially because of just his price increases. Like the fact he went up like 0.6 in like 6 days.
Yeah, I mean, he's really well owned.
Really highly owned now.
Terrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of them terrify me that I don't own. Sterling, I think, is the one that terrifies me the most.
Playing the whole game is terrifying.
I've got I think 4 green arrows in a row. That's coincided with not only Sterling not really playing that much, but Sané, who I've got in, actually getting more returns from him. But once Sterling starts getting those starts again, you know, that worries me more than Aubameyang, and probably worries me more than Kane, really, because Kane is quite divisive. People have got a lot of the memories, you know, good and bad around him, and he's quite a divisive figure, really. But I just think if Eriksen's playing, and that's the key, really, is if Eriksen's playing, then I think all of his goals, bar 2, have come whilst Eriksen has been on the pitch, and So that's what I'm looking out for, really, and it's less Kane. It's sort of like with Aubameyang. I've got Aubameyang's a great player, great striker as well. It's all the other guys around him. Who's he going to be playing with? I think he is good when he plays with Lacazette. So when Lacazette's not there, he kind of loses something, I feel, as well. And Özil's not really there much. He's too busy playing Fortnite and stuff, so hasn't got much time for football these days. So you've got these things going on, and it's the same really with Kane. I haven't got a problem with Kane at all, but if I see that team sheet and I see no Eriksen and that starting 11, then I think, oh god, if he's my captain, no chance. So yeah,
I feel the most stressed this season playing FPL than I have done in previous, and I feel like all my good weeks are just luck. And all my bad weeks are also just luck. I don't know. I feel like all my 50-50 calls are kind of wrong. This week I had a really good week, but like Alonso hit the bar, Aubameyang missed like loads of one-on-ones. I got Wan-Bissaka off my bench for Kolasinac. It felt like a really jammy week, and I feel like all my green arrows lately have just been through jam rather than actual getting things right. And
a lot of it's rotation, isn't it? Because that's what's or unexpected injuries. We've had loads of those, like the Wilson one. Obviously, the Kolasinac one was another one. They just keep popping up. I mean, Hennessy was another one. They keep popping up, and it's a weird one, isn't it? Because so much of what happens is it feels less connected to our thought process than we'd like.
It feels like I'm kind of bouncing off like walls, kind of just like a pinball, just going down different holes. Sometimes they're all right. Sometimes. Yeah, I'm losing a life.
There's only 20 weeks to go. I
can't handle it.
We've only got the Christmas run to come. Yay.
well, let's move on from the premium options, because it's obvious just from that conversation we just had there. We've all got the players that we fear. We've got the players that we think are better than the other players. In reality, I think Kane, Aubameyang, Salah, Sterling, Sane, Hazard, they're all great players. And I really wish I could have them all, because that would just end everything. But you can't. But one way you can have quite a few of them is to go for some budget options. And this chap here, Danny Ings, he came hurtling back into our thoughts at the weekend with a brace against Arsenal, and he's down to 5.4 after his injury. So excelled against Arsenal. Do we think it's time to revisit Southampton players, in particular Danny Ings? And has Ings actually strengthened the case to forget Kane and Aubameyang altogether and just go heavy in midfield and just get players like Ings, Wilson and Mitrovic and all those types of cheaper strikers up front? So we've got some questions on this. Joseph Allegretti, there's a new attacking manager at Southampton, so he's noticed. Does that make Ings and Saints attackers strong assets over Christmas? Mohammed Hassan and Jas both ask, is it time to go for budget strikers rather than premium ones and invest more heavily in midfield? What do you think? Are you keen on Danny Ings, and also are you keen on this going a bit lighter up top and investing more in midfield?
I mean, I never thought, if you told me last week that I'd be seriously considering bringing Danny Ings into my fantasy team, I'd have thought you were mad. But it is actually quite appealing. The kind of short-term fixtures are pretty good. He did a good job for you, didn't he, Joe, at the start of the season?
He's my player, and I feel annoyed I missed his brace against Arsenal.
I think, he was posting some really good stats as well when he does play. I mean, Southampton are awful. I know they won 3-2 in that game, but I looked at the lineup and I just thought I just can't believe Arsenal didn't win that game, basically. And credit to Southampton, they played unbelievably well, but there isn't an abundance of quality in that side, and I do wonder how many times Danny Ings is going to get a 13-point return. But you don't need him to, do you? Like you say, if you're going heavy in midfield and you're going for relatively cheap up front, you need a Danny Ings to get you a goal every 2 weeks, or a goal or a good score once every 3 weeks, something like that, and then you're happy. And he looks like he's capable of doing that. I think they're gonna play to him more. They look like they were getting loads more balls forward to him as well. So it looks like he's going to be kind of key to them going forward. I think the big worry with him is though the injury. He's just come back from quite a long injury, and they're the kind of players that I'm actually trying to avoid. So it's like De Bruyne. Like De Bruyne scored today. I reckon he's going to get loads of people bringing him in. But you do wonder how many games he's going to play. He might play one in the next 3, something like that. And with Danny Ings as well. I mean, Danny Ings runs around like a crazy person a lot of the time. And I think they've got Huddersfield next, and then they've got another game which, they kind of need to win, and then the fixtures kind of turn a bit. I just wonder how he's going to be used, to kind of get the most out of him. And Charlie Austin scored as well, didn't he, against Arsenal? So they've got quite a good replacement there who plays in a kind of similar way. So minutes could be a bit of an issue. But honestly, I think if you're not relying on him too much and you've got really good players in around him, then I think he's 5.4 million. I mean, there's no one around that price that can get you, 10 points like he does. I mean, I've got Isaac's success, and let me tell you, it is awful. So
not so much of a success.
It is the opposite of a success. So for 0.9 more to get Danny Ings, I mean, seems a good shout to me.
David, what do you think? Keen on Ings, and also keen on perhaps ditching the likes of Keynes and not considering Aubameyang?
Yeah, I'm definitely keen on Ings. I think what I like about him is that he is kind of the perfect player for this new manager, because the general idea that we get from Hasenhüttl is that he's often referred to as the Austrian Klopp. He's very big on high press, very intense type of game, and that's absolutely what we saw against Arsenal, and I think it's why they won. They didn't give Arsenal a moment's rest. And yeah, Ings plays into that because obviously Ings has spent the last 3 years of his career, admittedly injured for most of it, but still in and around, the master of the high press in Jurgen Klopp. So he is sort of almost ready-made to be the first choice striker for Southampton. So I do think, of course, I think he will share minutes. I agree with Az with Austin over Christmas, but I do think long term he's going to be first choice because he is kind of almost the poster boy for the type of football that manager likes to play, which is always a really good thing if you're looking for a player of any price point really in fantasy, because I think he has the potential to be their talisman. And what I thought was quite funny was that Southampton, they hadn't had any headed goals this season until that game, and all of a sudden they had 2 within 20 minutes. So obviously he's the kind of player that can actually deliver any type of goal, because I wouldn't have seen him as an aerial threat, to be honest, and he's gone and scored 2 headed goals. So I think there's a lot to him. Definitely agree the fixtures there's only really the next 2. If you're going to sign him, I'd sign him now. Because Huddersfield away and then West Ham at home, I think he will score against West Ham, because I really don't trust their defence. But then, it's Man City and Chelsea after that. And you just wonder, in those kind of games, they might be the kind of games that Hasenhüttl tries to sit deep and try and just play balls out up to Austin to hold things up. And that's the kind of game that he doesn't really want to have Ings running around and doing nothing for, because he does have to think about his hamstrings, because he's one of those players who has to be careful. So I think if you're going to get Ings, you get him now, don't get him next week, because you're only going to get one game out of him. As for getting rid of Kane and going for cheaper people up front, I don't want to do it because it feels unnatural, but you've only got to look at what Mark's been doing this season, and you see the lineups that he's had, and he's been very small and up front, and he's got loads of great midfield options. Obviously, Andy, you've been looking at that as well with your potential for power 5 in midfield. So it could work. Absolutely, it could work. It's just, I guess it's whether or not you're brave enough. And I don't think I am. I don't think I'm brave enough at all, because I think with those premium options, there's a fear about, what Kane can do to you. And I agree, watching Aubameyang and Arsenal when I don't own Aubameyang, and bearing in mind that there's kind of this, the fact that I had to choose between Kane and Aubameyang, I'm desperately hoping I'm not proved wrong by not going with Aubameyang. There's fear about him. Those two do worry me. And I'm not that unhappy with the cheaper options in midfield as well. So I mean, I know that Bournemouth haven't been great recently, but so I've got Fraser. They've got Brighton next, and Brighton are really bad at defending set pieces, for example. Richarlison's playing up front anyway, so having someone like him as a cheap midfielder having him isn't hindering me at all. So while I can understand that strategy, and it has had some success with some people, I guess it's just if you're brave enough to go without those premium strikers, because a lot of it is mental. A lot of it is, can you cope with the stress of not owning these players? Because I know I can't. I know I want to have Kane, otherwise I'm not going to be covering Spurs games. It's just going to be a nightmare for me.
So what about you, Andy? Keen on Ings, and also David hinted that you might be keen to go light up top and heavy in midfield.
Yeah, so I mean, I've already moved to 3-5-2. I made that choice already. I just think people start getting Kane and Aubameyang in, just thought it's probably a little bit too much money up front. So I actually downgraded a bit in mine. I only have Jimenez and Aubameyang up front. So I'm definitely looking at power 5. I don't think you necessarily need to drop the premium striker, because my team value is pretty bad, and I can get Hazard, Sterling, Sané, Felipe Anderson and Richarlison. Obviously, if you drop Aubameyang, you can drop one of Richarlison and Anderson for a bigger hitter. But I'm pretty happy with that. Ings, it's hard not to buy into the hype because it was Arsenal, but it was an Arsenal team that had Xhaka at centre back and Koscielny, who was awful. I know he's not played that much, but he was super rusty. But I was quite impressed with Southampton the way they attacked. I think Redmond, I think, looked pretty good, and Matt Targett, his balls in were really impressive. I don't know how long he'll stay on the team for once Bertrand and whoever else might play left back is back. But yeah, I think Ings looks good. I think the points David made about fixtures, like he's got 2 good fixtures, but then 2 tough ones. Do you really want to get someone in who's very injury prone, who's just come back from an injury? I'm not sure I do, but if you log in and check his stats on the site, it's actually insane how close he is to other strikers with like 400-500 less minutes. Like he's got better expected goals than Jimenez, and he's played like 400-500 minutes less. So yeah, I think there's potential there. I was very impressed with the way he played. I mean, like you said, I don't think Austin's going to be the main man there. He's just not mobile enough. And he is someone that can just come on and score as well. So yeah, I like Ings. The premium thing, I'm actually not against it at this point. I don't have Kane. I've done that a few weeks. I sold Salah once this season. I'm going to do it again. I think once you do that, you don't worry about it as much, even though you do still refresh Twitter a lot on a Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, basically, short answer, I'm going 3-5-2. Yes, I'm looking at putting more funds into midfield. Am I going to drop Aubameyang? Not just yet, because I just think underlying stats-wise, they're there. And the fixtures are good as well, but longer term, maybe into January after FA Cup week and stuff, I might look to move to 2 cheapies up front and get Salah back, because after those 2 top 6 games, Salah's got a nice run again and potential captain option possibly.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Ings, I mean, I said it earlier, he's my player, and I exclaimed, and he feels he is. There's certain players, when you get them in and they do a good job for you, and when you have to get rid of them mainly through injury, you kind of have a slight affinity with them, and I think, and I had that with him as well. So I got him in, and he scored me the odd goal, got me the odd, got an assist. In fact, he got bonus from an assist, and he was actually subbed off at 45 minutes. So that's the kind of thing. So he's getting that bonus as well, and I feel, and he has scored against Arsenal. He's also scored against Man City. So I know that he's a player I can comfortably just field in a bad fixture as well, and he has 2 great fixtures coming up. For me personally, and this may be the case for other Mitrovic owners, I am starting to wonder whether I made a boo-boo in getting Mitrovic back in. I like the guy, but he just doesn't seem to have done it for me this season. I've managed to escape all his points, and I just feel that Fulham and him, it's just not gelling. And the fact that he was hauled off away to Manchester United. Now I know the next game is against Newcastle away, and that's his team. And you would expect him to know that defence, but by the same token, Rafa Benitez and that defence also know him. And I wonder if they might get the better of him. And so the occasion may get to Mitrovic in terms of cards as well. He is on 4 yellows.
Kick someone in the head, isn't he?
Whether it could all get a bit nasty. And I just wonder. So I am thinking of Mitrovic to Danny Ings this weekend. David mentioned if you don't do Ings now, you'll never do Ings. And I think that is the key moment, because the fixtures are just there.
That's such a you transfer, Joe.
Yeah.
Mitrovic to Ings.
Yeah, well,
Chasing points.
It's good, chasing the points. I'm chasing my man. I'm chasing my man Ings. That's who I'm chasing. And he's
the thing for staying around that kind of price point though, and looking at the cheap as well. Someone who we've probably forgotten about a little bit, but should be back soon as well, is Arnautovic.
Yes.
Obviously, like I said earlier, West Ham's fixtures are incredible. So to go in Mitrovic to Ings might not be the worst thing if you've got a bit of money to maybe go Arnautovic.
Indeed. And that's what I'm thinking, because another player, now we talk about players we fear, and the player I now fear is Richarlison. He is a complete rank killer if you do not own Richarlison. Now I've already detailed how I got Sigurdsson in, hoping I would get the better of Richarlison, and it didn't happen. Now game week 19 onwards is Richarlison time. I do need him, I believe, for game week 19. So I need to free up money. If I can move Mitrovic to Ings, then I have enough money to upgrade Fraser to Richarlison. Now, with a heavy heart, I'll be saying goodbye to Fraser, but I won't play him for 2 of the next 3 fixtures anyway. And to be honest, Bournemouth's fixtures are really pants coming up, and I don't think it's just really it's a long-term pants basically. It's a massive pair of pants that they're going to be wearing, and there's just not enough there. And I think in comparison to someone like Richarlison, who I've had to watch playing up front for Everton and score against Everton and be owned by literally everyone except me, it appears. I think that's an easy swap to me. So I am thinking of it. I may not do it, and if I don't do it this weekend, I won't do it because I'll be looking out for an Arnautovic coming back. But it's a good way there. I just wanted to add one nice stat. I had a look on minutes per goal attempts in the box. Ings is the best of the cheaper options. So if you're for strikers who are 7 million and below, he is the best option. He is have a shot in the box every 30 minutes. Mitrovic just behind with 35. Same with Jimenez and Wilson at 36 minutes. And Rashford every 85 minutes. So there we go for Rashford fans. Not stacking up against the likes of Ings in terms of shots in the box. Let's look ahead to fixtures. Now, we're going to be doing something a bit different this time. This is our last Scoutcast until we start to look ahead to game week 22 in January. So we've got game weeks 18, 19, 20 and 21 to consider as well. So what we're going to look at is we've got some questions, I believe, David, around festive fixture congestion and looking in detail at how we cope with these 4 fixtures. So fire away, David.
Yes, as you've mentioned there, lots of fixtures coming up in a very short space of time. So, I mean, the first question is kind of, I think, the most focused on that particular aspect of the Christmas period, and it's from Stu Footed, who says, "What are your transfer and bench strategies over Christmas, sort of in relating to, what you want on your bench, what you don't want on your bench? Are you going to be bringing in players who you think can score you points, or are you going to be bringing in players who you think can just basically start matches and that's all you think about?" We've got a few other questions, some more sort of detailed things about Christmas. But I think if we start just on how much the Christmas period affects what you want to do for your transfers and for your bench, it's a good place to start. So go straight back to you, Joe. How are you factoring those games into those big decisions you've got to make?
Well, I mean, first of all, when deciding to get players in and out, the same rules apply. You look at form and fixtures. So we discussed a lot of that already. But over this time, you have to factor in rotation. And this is where sometimes you'll captain a player that you don't necessarily think is the best, but you think they've got more of a chance of playing. And that's key. You want to get 11 players out, and you want to be able to captain the best person who's actually going to be on the pitch to get you points. And so it's difficult to plan, and you're going to have to do that each time. So what you've got to do is you've got to pay attention to Fantasy Football Scout. You've got to pay attention to social media, newspapers. You need to be looking at the midweek team sheets. I call them midweek. So game week 19. Have a look at those team sheets because it's going to help you decide who's actually going to start game week 20. So for example, this week it's already started in some way. Man City playing Leicester, Sane was rested completely. Sterling got a rest for most of the match. That indicates both are going to start this weekend. I think there's a very, very strong chance there. So that makes them perhaps good captaincy options. And that's what you need to look at. You've really got to keep your ear to the ground and play it close. You can't just kind of wing it and hope for the best. You've got to be really on the ball with the kind of the team sheet news. So myself and Neil will be getting some videos out over this period as well, looking at the team conferences as well. David will be talking about captaincy options as well over Christmas and some more videos there. So plenty of videos coming up. So in terms of fixtures, West Ham, Huddersfield and Burnley I think are the best amongst the cheap assets. Now I say them and people go, hang on a minute, Joe, Burnley are an absolute pants. Well, yes they are. So this is just fixtures. I'm not talking about form here. This is just purely on fixtures. And in terms of the premium ones, Chelsea, Tottenham and Arsenal I think are the best there. In terms of form, attacking form, over the last 4, the best ones are Arsenal, Liverpool, City and West Ham again. So note there, I've got West Ham mentioned in fixtures and form. So that makes them a key side, I think, over this period. To a lesser extent, Watford and Everton, I think, are teams to go for as well, because especially after this week for Everton. Now, rotation is the bit we need to factor in. This is important. So Liverpool, City and Wolves have the biggest gaps between games. So the threat of rotation is slightly lessened. I'm not saying they're all going to play, but it's slightly lessened there. Well, this is handy. So if you've got Jimenez, Doherty, Salah, and you've got Sané, this is good news. Everton and Spurs have the worst, so I'm thinking getting Richarlison in. So now this might make me think twice. Spurs, this is why it might make me think twice about Kane as well. Will he actually play all those fixtures? Unlikely. So you look at the gaps between games. So with Liverpool, for example, they have a 4-day gap, then a 2-day gap, then a 4-day gap. And right at the bottom, you've got Tottenham and Everton. They've got 2-day gap, 2-day gap, 2-day gap. There's going to be heavy rotation there. So my dream of seeing Kane backed with Eriksen, I don't know if it's going to happen. So that may make me want to get rid of Kane. So that's another option there. So I think Hazard, Salah, Sterling, Sané, I think are probably the best at the moment. For the first half, definitely with Salah. Anderson, Chicharito, keep an eye on Arnautovic, Fabianski, obviously I think are great options. I would get 2 or 3 of them in. I think Kane is ditchable. Richarlison's a player that I fear, but I don't know whether that's a fear factor. He may even get a rest, finally. And I mentioned as well about Kane. He's not ditchable at the moment with those attacking returns, but that rotation does worry me there. Yeah, so they're my thoughts.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with a lot of that. I think it's definitely worth paying attention to the gaps between fixtures. I know that the research that people did into that last season did really help us kind of guide where we want to go and who we want to avoid, because it's brutal. Period. I mean, I think whilst we've talked there about some people that we're the kind of people we're going to be starting most games. We've had a lot of people recently kind of I think we've all fielded questions on Twitter, especially asking, well, I'm kind of happy with my first team, the 11 or 12 players in my team. I've got some free transfers to use. Is it worth using them to make sure my bench is playing? So, I mean, is that a strategy that is potentially worth thinking about? What do you think, Andy?
I think it's hard to say without knowing exactly who these people would have. Obviously, I know we're looking for a generic answer. I think if you've already got two good enough bench players, and I'm not talking goalkeepers, I'm talking outfield, then I don't know if I would prioritise getting a third. I know I always say this, and then it comes back to bite me the next game week. But it's very rare you use all 3 outfield players over Christmas. Yeah, sure. I guess I guess it's probably a little bit more likely, as you said, rest days and stuff. But if I had 2 and I only had 1 free transfer, I'd probably be more tempted to leave it, because these fixtures come thick and fast. And if a player gets injured only for a couple of weeks, like real life weeks, that's kind of 4 or 5 game weeks at the moment, and you can't hold on to them for that long. Whereas, in January, February, they get injured for a week or 2, they're only out for 1 or 2 games. It's a bit different. So I would like to try and hold transfers as much as possible if you've got 2. Now, if you've only got 1, maybe you could, but I'd still want to do it as an overall strategy for how you're setting up your team. So, for example, last week I took out a player which I bought Kamara in, which left me with Kamara and Diangana, but I knew I then had enough money the next week to upgrade Diangana that I wasn't going to be stuck with 2 dodgy bench players. So, yeah, I think you can do it. I mean, people talk about taking hits for bench players, and for me, that's just absolute no-go. Would I use a free transfer? Who for? Yeah, but was it to fund something else?
No, we got in like Balbuena, Josh Murphy, and Fabianski for an 8-point hit a few weeks ago.
I remember.
And benched them all?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's top of mods and cotton, so, works.
No, that just sounds really stupid to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously working right now. Yeah, okay. I not usually I wouldn't want to spend transfers on bench players, basically. Is the short
I think the problem with the bench players is that a lot of these players aren't missing 90 minutes, and then you're getting the bench players anyway. You look at like Son and Sterling, and they're benched, and you're like, oh no, they're benched, so I might get my Wan-Bissaka clean sheet, and then they come on for the last 15
Son, yeah, if Son
20
doesn't
minutes.
play, you know he's going to come on every time.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought that I had a fairly decent bench with I've got Brooks, Wan-Bissaka, and Success. Success looked like he was actually hitting some form, and now he's in and out of the team. Brooks didn't play at all last week. So yeah, I agree. I think having 3, really good bench options is just overkill. But you've got Wan-Bissaka, and you've probably got like someone like Bennett for 4 million who actually play most games, and then you just fill it with someone. I mean, who's that Cardiff midfielder?
Camarasa.
Camarasa, yeah. I mean, someone like if you've got those 3, to me that's probably about the best bench you can have. Those 3 players.
I think generally for the money you're spending on your bench anyway, like it's kind of like what Az just said. You're not expecting them to come off and get you. I mean, they could, like Camarasa could get something. I've got Kamara. He did have 5 points on my bench the other day, but most weeks I'm not expecting that. I'm expecting 1 or 2 points. And if you bring in all 3 players and they get 2 or 3 points between them, yeah, okay, that's an extra 8 or 9 points. But I think it's important to have a good bench if it's part of your, if you can fit it in with your transfers. But I wouldn't go out of my way to worry about players that you're mostly going to get 1 or 2 points from, personally.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to what people's situation is, I suppose. And I think the other thing is just, I think a lot of it comes down to who's in your first 11. So, I mean, I don't have Sterling right now, but I would feel, I don't know, I'm not saying I would use transfers and take hits to sort my bench out, but I would be more conscious of my bench if I had people like Sterling and Son in. Because just on that point about people who have been coming on for cameos, I sort of suspect that would happen a bit less over Christmas. I mean, I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but I just feel that with how thick and fast the games are, if Spurs are winning, they're not going to bring Son on for the last 20 minutes. You'd think maybe they just not play him at all so that he can start the next one and he's fresher. I don't know. So I think it does just depend, like you said at the top of your answer, Andy, like just what your situation is and kind of just playing it by ear. And if you think you're confident with some of your bench options, maybe that's the sort of the best you can hope for.
It's a playing bench rather than a great bench.
Yeah.
Is what I'd be aiming for.
Yeah. But so with all those sort of thoughts in mind in terms of the premium options and the bench options or the cheaper options, we've got the question from Elwood FPL who says, if you're wildcarding now, who would be the first names on your team sheet? Because there's a lot of people who save their wildcard to kind of build a team around this particular period. So if you were kind of just starting with a blank slate, I'll come straight back to you, Az, on this one. There are a couple of players that you'd be looking at, I guess, some premium and some cheaper ones. You kind of mentioned a few already, but
yeah. Wan-Bissaka, Bennett, Camarasa. Bench sorted. Easy. Hazard, obviously. Fabianski, obviously. But then, I don't know, really. I think you can make a case for loads of different players. I think one of the beauties at the moment, compared to maybe 6-7 weeks ago, is that teams are actually quite different. And the emergence of these kind of 6 premium options has really kind of shaken up templates a bit. I think Felipe Anderson is amazing value at 7.6 or whatever he is now. With West Ham's fixture, I think having a West Ham attacker of some description is really important. So it's either kind of Hernandez, who could later become an Arnautovic, but Felipe Anderson, to me, if he stays fit, I can't see him leaving my team anytime soon, because he looks like he could just deliver in every game he plays. But yeah, I mean, I'm reasonably happy with my team at the moment. So I think, even if I did have a wild card, there isn't really too many players I'd change. Lacazette, I'd ditch. And I think you need one Man City, midfielder, whether you pick Sterling or Sané. They've both got their merits. I think Sterling, I'd say he is more explosive. I think Sané has been matching him for points and looks a bit more nailed. So I think, I'd maybe lean towards Sané if I was going to pick one. But I do like both of them together as well. So I think you need one anyway. Yeah, that's pretty much a squad, right?
Yeah, that's just about 15 players. Yeah. No, I think it's worth just picking out a Lacazette there, because I think it's just worth saying that he is exactly the kind of player you do not want to own over Christmas, because if he's this much of a nightmare when it isn't Christmas, it's just going to be exacerbated over Christmas. And I personally think there's a case to be made that Sterling is possibly in the same type of bracket as Lacazette. And a lot of people I know are big on Sterling, but you kind of alluded to it there. I think if you've got to choose between Sané and Sterling, you go Sané, because there's less competition for his place. His minutes are being very carefully managed, I think, with that in mind. And bearing in mind that Sterling I think he's been benched 2 of the last 5 games. There's gonna be a lot of disappointment with people captaining Sterling over Christmas. I can just foresee that. So I think I'm not going to go near him, I don't think, over Christmas. I mean, a lot of people disagree with me, but yeah, that's just what I say.
One of the interesting things with City is, I think, the captaincy, because they've got some good games coming up and you are going to want to hand them the captaincy, but I'm a little bit reluctant to, just because of that, not really knowing who's going to play.
Well, sorry, carry on.
Because at least with Sané, I think you have got more of a chance of him playing than Sterling. So he seems to me a better captaincy option than Sterling, therefore a better pick, I think.
Yeah, no, I think this brings us back to a point we made in a couple of Scoutcasts ago about good players and great players. And one of the problems we had then with Salah, this was before his hat-trick, was that we didn't know whether he could get those types of returns. He was getting good returns. This is what Kane's doing. He's getting really consistent returns in his last 6 starts, but they're not great returns. And whereas we said at the time, it's Sterling was getting those great returns, and now Sané is as well. And last week was a case in point. I captained Kane, but who was my highest scorer? Well, that'd be Sané, and so I really should have been captaining. I didn't learn the mistake. So this weekend I'll be looking at Man City, and I think in future I'll be looking more at Man City there as well. And Sané is the one. I mean, you mentioned about first names on your team sheets. I said it before. West Ham. These West Ham players: Fabianski, Chicharito, Anderson. These are great value players. I have 2 of them, and for me, Sané is the one. And one of Sterling and Hazard. But I don't think in my team, my setup, I can get Sané, Sterling and Hazard and have a viable rest of the squad. So it'll be one of those really, unfortunately. And definitely Jimenez, keeping Jimenez. And those Wolves players, fantastic value. If you haven't got Doherty now, just get him in. Forget Pride. Forget the last few weeks. Just get him in.
Yeah, no, you go ahead, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, one player I probably wouldn't get on wildcard after just having a quick look at Twitter is Harry Kane, who apparently is a doubt for the North London derby because he's got a cold.
Not this again.
No. I'm reading into this that he's also probably going to miss the Everton game. Just saying. I'm just saying.
So do you know what? The thing
Why
is,
did you do that to us?
The thing is, though, Kane it's something to do with his unique nasal ability. That when he gets a cold, he gets a
stoop to that level.
He gets a proper man cold. No holds barred there. And we saw this last time. Do you remember, was it as you triple captained him for his famous double game week where he appeared on Twitter. And people were analysing, the snot and the mucus and the redness of his nose. And if I'm getting if I'm getting a whiff of Kane and a cold over Christmas, well then, see you later, Harry.
You get the cold and you can't get a whiff of anything.
I can't get a whiff. His colds are so bad you can catch it just from watching the games.
Well, he's got TV. Young kids, hasn't he? So, yeah. I mean, my kids are 2 and 1, and I can absolutely tell you for a fact right now that when they're that age, you are ill all of the time because of them. So maybe that's why the combination of the nose and the fact he's got young kids, it's going to happen. It's like
that's confirmed. Then he's out for Everton. All right, moving on.
We red flagged him right here.
Yeah, Sterling's an interesting one because I agree. Right now, you'd probably favour Sané, but then a few weeks ago we were favouring Sterling. So is it just going to swap again soon? I don't know. My only hope is they've got 3 games rest between each game. It's not too much difference when they're playing Champions League. And he has had 2 of the last 4 Premier League games off, or at least not started. I think he got minutes in one, not the other. And he's had another rest tonight. I mean, how many rests does this guy need?
Surely
he's pretty young.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be completely shocked if he plays every game. There's 3 days rest in between. He's had plenty of time off. The only obviously doubt in the back of my mind every time is that Mahrez can play there now. They didn't necessarily have that match.
Yeah, that's the key. I think that's why Sané has the edge because he doesn't really have anyone. It could be
me, those 2. I don't think that would put me off Sterling enough to not bring him in there. If I was wildcarding, Fabianski, Sterling, Sané, Hazard, then build the rest from there for me. Even defence, I mean, I love Doherty as much as the next person, but he's over 5 million now. Their fixtures on and off aren't great. Obviously, he can get attack and returns out of nowhere, but before the last 4 games, he was kind of on a string of 1 and 2s for like 5-6 weeks in a row. So it's not like he's been consistent scorer. He's had really good patches of scoring. He had those double-figure hauls, then absolutely nothing for 5 weeks, and now again another good run. Just the hope that Wolves can get some more clean sheets, and obviously that'll top up the attacking returns. But yeah, for me, Sané, Sterling, Hazard are the obvious ones in midfield, and then Fabianski in goal, and then build around that.
Okay.
I'm glad you've mentioned the defenders there because I think that's another thing that it's just worth talking about because I've got a question specifically on that from Wolfranian who said, what should we do with our misfiring premium options? And he mentions Alonso as an example. Is it time to make room for premium players elsewhere by downgrading those defenders? And I think just another point just on that particular subject is when you've got these games coming so thick and fast, it can be sometimes you kind of worry that clean sheets aren't going to be as regular as you'd like because sometimes getting a clean sheet kind of comes from organisation and staying mentally and physically fit for an extended period of time and just being coached to keep a clean sheet. So then if you haven't got so much time to prepare, then it kind of leaves the door open for some of our premium options to be getting clean sheets less. And if they're not getting the attacking returns as well, should we be moving them on? What do you think, Az?
Well, I've got Robertson, and he's not going anywhere for my team. I don't think for the whole season. He just creates crazy amounts of chances. Liverpool was so good defensively. I'm not worried about him at all. I sold Alonso, and I'm not that concerned. I think his attacking prowess is restricted. I think he's a lot of money for what you're getting for him at the moment. I did see some images of his positioning in some of the set plays though. In the last match against Brighton, I thought, oh god, he's definitely going to get a goal soon. But I also think, I think Luke's done well with having David Luiz over Alonso. I know he benched his 15-pointer the other day, but I think I saw a stat that Luiz has outscored Alonso since game week 3, something like that. So you can save yourself almost 1.5 million there. I've got Kolasinac, who I bought in for Alonso. If Kolasinac plays, I think attacking wise he offers just as much to the side. He's playing as a wing back, gets forward loads, doesn't have the clean sheet potential. But and then you look at someone like Lucas Dean. I mean, his chances created, his stats, and his set plays, and he's only like 5 million. So there's plenty of defenders who are can give you attacking points and are playing for fairly decent teams. So yeah, I think, and apart from Robertson, I'm not a big fan of any of the other premium defenders at the moment.
Yeah, I think we've been lucky in that we're blessed with a lot of those cheaper defenders, the ones that you've mentioned, and yeah, that definitely helps during this period. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted about this last week. I was trying to find Alonso's attacking potential, and it was nowhere to be seen. I've just checked over the last 6 game weeks for penalty area touches. There's 28 defenders that have had more than Alonso. He's had 6 in 6 game weeks. Like that. No matter if he popped up in the box a couple of times in the last game, that's pretty awful for him. He does have good fixtures to come. I've already pretty much started taking money out of my defence. He's my highest priced defender. After that is Keane, and even then I should have Lucas Dean instead of him. Wan-Bissaka, Schindler, and someone else, Doherty, who I got for 4.4 million. So I've pretty much taken my money out. I'm not against selling him at all. I don't think it's just one of those transfers that unless you need the money to make another transfer, then he's never going to be top of my priority list to take out. I think there are clean sheets for Chelsea. Obviously, if he's not getting attacking returns, you're just paying a premium to get those clean sheets versus Luiz or Rudiger. And I think if you were building a team like on a wild card, maybe you wouldn't go for him. If you're already an owner, it's not even fear of taking him out. It's just I just have better stuff to do right now than to take Alonso out. So yeah, I'm definitely all for. I think we see this a lot of seasons. Like we had Barrett on at the end of last season, and he said he started off with quite a big defence at the start, and then as it went on, he started putting more and more money into attack once you know who those attackers are, which teams are doing the business, etc. And that's kind of what I've been doing. Robertson, I'm not too worried about right now because obviously they've got those top 6 games coming up. After that, though, I'm pretty interested in getting him back because he's been so consistent, especially at home. Alonso just... Maybe the attacking threat will come back, but it is nowhere to be seen right now. He's barely shooting. He's not creating many chances. He's not getting into the box. It's just not there for him, and I can see why people are looking to get rid.
I mean, I think with me with Alonso, every time I think about getting rid of him, he does something like hit the bar and almost score, or indeed get a clean sheet. But I think if I got rid of him, it would be for a Chelsea asset because looking at those fixtures as well. There's something on the live chat. Someone, Thomas Sheridan's just put up that if you ditch Alonso with so much money, for Dina, so for Lucas Dean, you're freeing up a hell of a lot of money. And so I think if you're going into game week 19 without an Everton defender, without Lucas Dean in particular, and you're looking at Alonso there, then I think that is probably a move. I think that's a really viable move to look at, really.
Yeah, I was just obviously we've all been talking about sort of attacking returns. I think just one last thing just to talk about, I guess, is clean sheets. And I know that that's not always the first thing we look at when we think of people like Alonso and Doherty and Digne, but it's certainly a big part of it. I mean, Joe, are you particularly worried about clean sheets over this time of year? Are you expecting there to be less, to be more? I mean, what do you think on that particular subject?
This time of year, I don't even think about things like that. I just think about, will I get 11 good players out? Will my captain start? That's the key thing for me. So that's what I'm looking at. So it's a special time of year for me. in that. But obviously, I always go for defenders who I think can get me something extra. I think that's important for a defender. So Doherty, for example, I haven't got for clean sheets. I've got for his attacking returns. To be honest, same with Alonso. But at the moment, I'm just hopeful of getting clean sheets from him. So that probably says something about my views on him. I think we should move on and have a look in detail at our differential and clean sheets as well in detail. So over to ours. But before I say, we're just going to do this slightly differently this time. Instead of a clean sheet and a differential for game week 18, we're going to look for the player that we think is the best for game weeks 18 through to 21. So if you're getting a differential in now who's owned by less than 5%, who we think is the best one, and the same for clean sheets. So over to you, Az, because you can probably round up how we did last week.
Yep, so I wasn't here last week, and you guys did okay, I guess, some of you. So clean sheet wise, it was David, Joe, Luke and Adam. David went for Watford, no clean sheet. Luke went for Huddersfield, no clean sheet. Adam went for City, no clean sheet. But Joe went for Spurs.
Yes.
Got a clean sheet.
Hurrah.
That takes you up to 62% for the season out of 13 picks, which is pretty decent. Just behind me, I'm on 67%. So let's come to you first then, Joe. Who are you going for this week?
For my clean sheet,
Be a clean sheet.
well, guess what? I'm going to go for Spurs again because they did me so proud last time. And I think over game weeks 18 to 21, I think they're a really great option amongst great options here. So they're against Everton, just 4 goals in the last 4. Bournemouth with the lowest shots in the last 4. Wolves in the bottom 6 for close range efforts last 4. And Cardiff amongst the bottom 6 for big chances last 4. So I think there's 2, maybe if I'm lucky, 3 clean sheets for Spurs over Christmas. There we go.
Be good for your percentage if it comes in. David, who are you going for?
So I've gone for Chelsea, and that's mainly just it's fixtures again. I mean, I'm not 100% confident in them themselves, but Leicester a little bit off the boil attacking wise. Watford, they had a bit of a run recently where they went 2 or 3 games in a row without scoring. Palace, obviously, that game is at Selhurst Park, where I feel like they struggle to score more at home than they do away. And then it's Southampton who are actually looking very nice, but it's the Watford and Palace game that kind of drew me, and Leicester as well, because I mean even Maddison is getting pulled out of the team at half time now, so they've lost a little bit of their click kind of going forward. So yeah,
For tactical reasons as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seems crazy.
Yeah, because apparently Get Sal brings more intensity. So, yeah, I think, something not right there going forward anyway. So, I think, clean sheet's definitely available for Chelsea.
Yep. And Andy?
Yeah, so I'm going with the kind of saying you throw enough, eventually it sticks. And I'm not on here every week now, so I've got to take every opportunity to just talk about Man United. So I'm going to hope. Well, you've already taken pretty good ones anyway, but I just think the fixtures are there. If there is going to be a potential turnaround, it couldn't be much of a better set of fixtures to do it. Cardiff away, Huddersfield at home, Bournemouth at home, Newcastle away. So first match for the new manager. People keep saying in the chat, Solskjaer has been confirmed by looking up articles on the United website. So potentially they're not live yet, but it looks like it's going to be him. So first game at Old Trafford, Huddersfield at home on Boxing Day. I mean, that's a surefire clean sheet for sure. So I'm going Man United for the next 4.
Be interesting to see who gets the nod central defence, because you can't imagine it's going to be too much. He's going to want to get a settled defence, surely.
Yeah, I think Lindelof has probably been the most consistently played while he's been fit, the Mourinho. So you'd imagine it's going to be him plus 1. I'd like it to be Bailly, but I just don't know.
They've also conceded more goals than Bournemouth or something.
Yeah, but that was under that attacking manager Mourinho. We're getting the
nice. So I'm going to go for City because none of you have taken them, and actually they've got 3 really good games coming up. So I'm quite lucky to get City, I think. And you're talking about clean sheets, David. I know Man City haven't been keeping too many clean sheets, but they've got so many top quality defenders that can come in. Although you could argue that it kind of unsettles them a bit. I still think Otamendi Stones, Otamendi Laporte Company, any combination could keep a clean sheet. And the fact they've got 3 quite easy games coming up means they should deliver 2 clean sheets in that period. I'm with you, Joe. But you never know, do you?
No.
So differentials. I think only you guys did quite well at this. last week, if you can remember. You
Don't
went
sound
for.
so surprised. Come on.
I know, David. You were the stand-up pick. You had Snodgrass.
Yeah.
Got 11 points. Joe, you were the only one that didn't get it right. You went for Sherla.
I know.
Got 2.
Let me down.
Luke went for Chicharito, who got 5, and Adam went for Jota, who got 4. So yeah, not too bad, apart from you, Joe.
Yeah.
Andy, you got first pick this week.
Yeah, so I literally just went straight to Man United and looked at who was under 5% ownership. I'm not going to go into why anymore. I think I've mentioned it enough. So there's 2 players that kind of stood out. Lukaku, 4.4%, and I think Lingard's 2.1%. Now, obviously, I don't know how they're going to set up. It's going to be Rashford or Lukaku at number 9, so I thought I'd go for Lingard. I think there's probably a slight more chance that he plays more regularly. And yeah, it's just fixture thing, really, and blind hope that Solskjaer's going to come in and be better than Pep.
It's good that you're professional and you're not having any bias in these picks at all.
Well, I could have picked someone boring and obvious like De Bruyne, but I just thought I'd go for Lingard instead.
Whoa, Joe! I wonder who Joe's gone for.
Well, the thing is, when we were picking, I was like, I had second choice, and I thought, oh god, Andy's going to get KDB. It's the obvious one, the best one. And he wouldn't.
I don't think it is at all. I think it's a rubbish one. He's going to play one of the next 3 games.
But
he makes him breakfast. Come on,
he makes me breakfast. No, those watching the game tonight came on. Awesome goal. There we go.
That was a great goal. Yeah.
Just showing you what you're missing. So over the last 3 campaigns, he's averaging 16 assists and 7 goals each campaign. So he's been obviously injured a lot this season. He's back now. Got a goal in there. I think he's going to get significant minutes, and I think he's going to really rack up some returns there and really shake up the midfield's template, especially Man City picks as well. So I was delighted with Andy's Man United bias.
It's actually one of the reasons why I want to get Sané in is because I think when Mendy's back, the Sané to De Bruyne move should be quite a straightforward one because they're around the same price now. I quite like having that as an option. David, differential?
So I've been looking at Brighton. You guys are big on Brighton, and I've been looking at Solly March. Who's been looking really nice. So I mean, last couple of game weeks, he's obviously he's got a few points. I think he scored in the most recent one, and he had 3 assists in the 4 games before that, and his underlying statistics look really nice as well. So his 10 chances created in the last 4. He's had 9 shots as well. Not a great deal in the box, but the intent is there. And he did. I mean, you guys obviously will know that he's a very important player for Brighton, quite versatile as well. So I think that's kind of to his credit over Christmas because he can play on the left. He has largely played at number 10 when Gross hasn't been around, which I think Gross is not going to play many minutes over Christmas because he doesn't complete many games, does he? So I think he's one of those people I would see as nailed on even every game over Christmas. The underlying stats are there, the form's there, and the fixtures are there too. Brighton have still got some nice fixtures coming up. They've got Bournemouth, whose defence is pretty poor. They've got Arsenal, whose defence is pretty poor. They've got Everton, whose defence is pretty poor, and they've got West Ham, same thing. So, form, fixtures, underlying stats, and a nailed on starter, I think, for Brighton. So, very happy with Solly March. 5 million or something. 5 flat, yeah, 5.0, yeah.
It's amazing because I didn't really think he had it in him to become Brighton's kind of main man. And you think of the players. Brighton have actually got some decent, like Izquierdo and Johannes Bach.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money, haven't they? And the people who were originally there seem to be the ones that are just kind of kicking on anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's quite a good pick. I'm going to go for Danny Ings, 3.4% ownership. We've already talked about him. There's not really much else to add. I do think having a player for that price who is the kind of talisman, as you said, David, in the side can only really be a good thing. I doubt he's going to burn new owners too much unless he does just blanks every week. But as I said, you're not expecting too much from him. If he can get a few goals over Christmas, then I think you've done quite well for your money. That's who I'm going for.
Right, is that us all done for our festive differentials? So let's move on to our transfer plans and captaincy. So we'll go straight back to you as what you're thinking of doing, I suppose, immediately for game week 18 and anything in the back of your mind really with transfers.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to try and take it each game week, as it comes. I think it's important not to make too many kind of really emotional, reactive transfers. If your player's benched one week, like Son, you've got to think he's probably going to play the next game. So I think patience is going to be quite key to a lot of these, and not just getting annoyed because your players missed a game and transferring them out. Last week, for example, I nearly transferred out Lacazette and someone else for Son, and and it ended up Lacazette and Son were both benched, and it would have just cost me points. So now I'm sitting on 2 free transfers, and things are looking a bit healthier. I think, like David said, though, I'm reluctant to get rid of Lacazette because he's got Burnley at home, but also I'm thinking to myself, he's just not a player that I want over this period because I just don't know whether he's going to start or not. I think when he plays, he does well, which is really frustrating, and he kind of pushes Aubameyang out wide a bit more as well. So that I like as well because it kind of dents him too. So if I think if Lacazette misses out against Tottenham, I might be tempted to keep because the fact he is a bit fresher, he's played less minutes, might mean that he plays a bit more. But with the 2 free transfers, I could easily do Lacazette and Brooks, who's playing barely any minutes at the moment, and get in Sané and Ings. And I think that just gives me Sané, who's looking more kind of likely to play. Now he's missed the game tonight. And it gives me Ings, who is a player that I think is really good value for his price with a couple of good fixtures. So to do that for free, I think seems like quite a good move. But I am reluctant to lose Lacazette. If I see him starting against Burnley, I think it's going to be a mistake. So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and who would your captain be this weekend?
My captain would be Sterling or Sané, I think.
Okay.
Against Palace, I'm going to play Lucas Dean against Spurs. I don't think Kane's going to go that crazy, but I want him for the fixtures that are coming after it. So I think I'll probably go for Sané if I bring him in.
Okay, and David, what about you?
Yeah, I've got a lot of decisions to make, I think, because obviously I've got the 2 free transfers, and it's whether or not, I could do anything from just using one to just keep them banked to using, both of them and take a hit just to kind of mini wild card for Christmas. And so I mean, that I've got to kind of make my mind up on. In terms of where I could use that, I think the big decision I've got to make is Salah versus Hazard. And obviously you mentioned there, Joe, that game week sort of 2021 is maybe, after the Newcastle game is maybe the time to do that. So yeah, I mean, I've got to make a judgment call on that because Hazard's fixtures even before then are very nice. The other sort of decisions, I mean, we talked about Mitrovic. I'd love to get rid of him because on the eye test, I thought they were rubbish against West Ham, and they just didn't trouble them. Like, they had the chances, but I don't really think Fabianski had to do much work to keep the clean sheet, to be honest. And bearing in mind how bad West Ham's defence has been, if Fulham aren't even troubling that defence, that makes me want to get rid of Mitrovic. But at the same time, whilst their goal conversion has been quite low, as I was sort of researching it today, they are actually still getting a large number of shots on target. They've had the same number of shots on target in the last 4 game weeks as Spurs. Man City have only had 3 more shots on target than Fulham. And obviously, I know that doesn't tell the whole picture, but they are still creating chances that just. So I just, at the back of my mind, I just think, away at Newcastle, is that the right week to sell Mitrovic? Because even though I want to get rid of him, do I need to just hold off on one more week with him? Fraser, I have a similar thing about because, Bournemouth have slipped down right to the bottom of the attacking charts of anyone who's had a look at them over the last 4 game weeks, statistically in the members area. But it's a home game against Brighton, who away from home concede more attempts from set pieces than anyone else, and that's obviously Fraser's bread and butter. So, there's a lot of people I'd like to move on, but actually their fixtures this week, it's hard to do that. So, and there's all sorts of, I don't have any West Ham players, so I think that will probably be, if I get rid of Mitrovic, it'll probably be for Chicharito. If I get rid of Fraser, it'll probably be for Anderson or Snodgrass, depending on what I want to do elsewhere. So yeah, lots of decisions that I've got to make, and they're difficult ones, so I can't tell you which way they're going to go right now, other than the fact that Sané not involved at all tonight, almost 99% confirms him as my captain this week.
Right. People take note.
Definitely my captain then.
Yeah, people take note. Mr. 100% says Sané captain. Andy, what's your plans and captaincy?
Yeah, I think over Christmas I don't like being too aggressive because we've already spoken so much about rotation stuff. I'm looking at maybe taking an 8-point hit this week. Yeah, I know.
I don't like hits, but -8 probably.
Oh no, I love hit. Christmas is the best option. Like last week, like I said, I could have had Sané and Hazard instead of Felipe Anderson and Salah. Because of the price rises and stuff, I have to keep Anderson now. But I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing because of the fixtures they've got. So I'm potentially looking at doing the hits I've thought about separately. So the first hit would be Salah and Son to Hazard and Sané. Now, Son is someone I love, but I'm going to have to get rid of him eventually anyway because of the Asia Cup. And a lot of this depends on how many minutes he plays against Arsenal, because like we said, they have got the fewest amount of rest between games. And the difference between last year is they've got Lamella and Lucas Moura there as well, and we've already seen Ali and Ericsson miss out, and they're usually the two like Kane that play most games. So I'm a bit of a risk of trying to guess rotation here, which is not necessarily a good plan over Christmas. But I do think the Son will miss probably one of the next three, and if he plays a lot of minutes in this one, maybe he even misses the next game. If he plays that Bournemouth game on Boxing Day, then I'll be pretty gutted to not own him. But yeah, I'm looking at getting rid of those. So I just think Hazard looks really good right now and can outscore Salah over the next four. And Sané just looks incredible, and I just can't go any longer without him. I've put it off long enough. And then the second hit is maybe Ryan to Fabianski. And I know goalkeeper hits never do them, but if I'd done this weeks ago, I'd be points up. And I just don't see the situation with Ryan changing anytime soon. He's just rubbish.
He's going to the Asia Cup as well.
And he's going to the Asia Cup as well. And I'm thinking of him separately because people will look at it and say 8-point hit, get rid of Salah. That's ridiculous. But I'm just looking at Ryan Fabianski, -4. Could Fabianski break even on that this week? I think there's a potential for that. And then over the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, he probably outscores him. So, yeah, I'm looking at maybe probably doing the 4 for definite, and then maybe even just doing Ryan Fabianski just to get it over with as well.
Okay. And yeah,
captain. It probably should be Sané because he's completely missed out, but I'm probably going to go Sterling again. I made the claim that I think he's a better captain option than Kane over these next few weeks. I'm going to put it to the test again this week.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, I've got some options. I've only got one transfer. Mitrovic out for Ings feels quite right. Feels sensible because then I can do Fraser for Richarlison no hit the following week. I do have a goalkeeper issue now. Hart has got me the odd haul, surprising. But Hennessy possibly being injured still, that was a bit of a shocker for me. I don't feel comfortable just having Hart, but Burnley do have good fixtures coming up, so I'm kind of okay. But both Hennessy and Hart have awful fixtures this week, so this could be the time, perhaps even, as Andy was saying, take a hit for Fabianski. A player I should have got anyway, and I think he will repay that in save points alone. So, yeah, Hennessy to Fabianski or Mitrovic to Ings. But I am keeping an eye on Kane's nose. So I want to be finding out a bit more about that. Because there is an option of downgrading Kane to Ings and getting Højbjerg up to either Sterling or Hazard with gasps from the crowd. And that sounds...
Slight upgrade.
That sounds like a slight... That sounds... Do you know what? That sounds like a good move. That sounds like a good move, but I don't have reason at the moment to get rid of Kane. But I do if he's got the sniffles, because that's end of days. That is once Kane gets the sniffles. Everyone, thanks so much for joining me. We have, as I mentioned, we have no more Scoutcast until pre-game week 22, but we do have some more videos coming out. We also have a very special Meet the Manager coming up around New Year's Eve-ish, I hope. So that'll be good. Watch out for that. But for now, it's a good night from me.
Good night from me.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.